Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the NIV, and we will be until the end of 2025. And then we'll start the KJV on January 1st, 2026. In this video, we are in Leviticus chapter 11. Clean and unclean food. This is the Mosaic Law, just as a part of the Mosaic Law. Anyway, you'd really have to go back into Exodus to get at the start. Okay. The Lord, let's try that again. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Say to the Israelites, of all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a split hoof completely divided and that chews cud. There are some that only chew cud or only have a split hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews cud, does not have a split hoof. It is ceremonially unclean for you. The coney, that is a hyrax or a rock badger, not a rabbit like it would be if you're, of European descent. Just make that clear. The coney, though it chews cud, does not have a split hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, see, they have a distinction, though it chews cud, does not have a split hoof. It is unclean for you. I know Europeans all over the place are like, what? And the pig, though it has a split hoof completely divided, does not chew cud, and it is unclean for you. So, some of these animals, if one were to eat it, if you don't cook it enough, you can get very, very sick. And this is not a time in which they have like meat thermometers and etc. Like, I use a meat thermometer when I cook so that I don't have to worry about anything being under or overcooked. So I can have it just the way I want it. I myself personally, I don't respond very well to pork. It has to be slow cooked, or my body just doesn't want it. It just rejects it. Can make me sick, really. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the streams, you may eat any that have fins and scales. So, fish in general. But all creatures in the seas and streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to detest. So that would be all shellfish, but also, if you think about it, like a jellyfish or an octopus, squid, oysters, all those are no. Since you are to detest them, you must not eat their meat, and you must detest their carcasses. For me, some of that, it's absolutely like some of those things I'm allergic to, so I don't like them, and they don't like me. So we're okay there. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be detestable to you. I like all the little fishies in the ocean, whether I want to eat them or not. I don't know about detestable. I can admire them where they are, or I can go to, because I can scuba dive, or I could go to an aquarium if I'm not taking a scuba dive trip, and enjoy them where they are there too, and not to test them, and just not eat them. These are the birds you are to detest and not eat because they are detestable. The eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, I'm not sure what that, maybe the crow, the red kite, and any kind of black kite, I'm not sure what kind of bird that is, and any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, I'm not even sure what that is, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. The precise identification of some birds, insects, and animals in this chapter is uncertain. That's probably because they're extinct. I mean, this is back in the BC era. All right, so not all of these are going to still be here. So there's a common theme with all these birds, in case that's a little unclear, and that is that they all eat meat. Those are all meat eaters. They prey on other birds, or they prey on fish, or I mean, they got to eat. I'm not saying that they shouldn't. It's what they do, though. I mean, owls, hawks, they'll eat cats, dogs. If they can pick it up and take it, they'll take it, because some of them are, big enough to do so. We have hawks out here. We have owls out here. But the rest of these, they eat other living things that aren't plants or insects or, those kinds of things. So you can't have the meat eaters. And, you know what? I bet they taste terrible, too. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be detestable to you. Bats that's not even a bird, right? So that's a mammal. If you actually, look at them when they're, when they're in the right light and they're, laying, they look like puppies. They look like flying puppies. Their faces are all fuzzy. They look like a dog to me. Or maybe little flying teddy bears. Like that. All flying insects that walk on all fours that would be detestable to you. And I don't remember how many insects actually have 4 legs. There are, however, some winged creatures that walk on all fours that you may eat. It's like the locusts. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground, so grasshoppers. Of these, you may eat any kind of locust, catted, cricket, or grasshopper. But all other winged creatures that have 4 legs, you are to detest. It's like, wait, John the Baptist survived in the wilderness eating, locusts and, grasshoppers and honey things. Which means that he had some beehive out there somewhere with them. You will make yourselves unclean by these. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up one of their carcasses must wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. Well, sometimes you have to pick them up, the carcasses, so you don't get predators to come into your camps. So I can see. But a good thing it's only till evening, right? Every animal that has a split hoof, not completely divided, or that does not chew cud, is unclean for you. Whoever touches the carcass of any of them will be unclean. Of all the animals that walk on all fours, those that walk on their paws are unclean for you. So that would be, of course, any mammal sort of thing, like coyotes or, wolves, lions, because they did have lions out that way. So in our, in the American society, the way we are here amongst me, so the creatures you would go visit, say, in a zoo, that would all be sort of grouped together, like bears, none of those. Anyone who picks up their carcasses must wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. They are unclean for you. So, I mean, here's the good news, is that if they had this as a regular enough of a problem, they could sort of have a crew where this is their job. So then they go out in the morning and they do their job and they become unclean. And then they wash before sundown. And then, and right after sundown, they could be on the outside edge of camp, and then sundown. Now it's evening. You could walk home and go have your dinner. You'd have to take your lunch out there with you. But, it's doable. That's the point. Of the animals that move about on the ground, these are unclean for you. The weasel, the rat, any kind of great lizard. I wonder what they mean by that. The gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. Of those that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean till morning. Okay. Well, sometimes I live out here where some of these things can get in the house, and if they died in the house, they make a stink. So I guess I would just have to be unclean till morning, right? I would just have to take that because I'm not dealing with that smell. When one of them dies and falls onto something, that article, whatever its use, will be unclean. Whether it be made of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth. Put it in water. It will be unclean until evening, and then it will be clean. So wash it. Yes, usually that's my approach too. If one of them falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean. Yes, one dead thing in your food can make it unedible. Yes, I would say so. And you must break the pot. Okay, so they're thinking about remember, these are people who don't know how often they should even be bathing themselves. Like kindergartners or toddlers or, however that works. So they're thinking decomposition of something, and then no, because it's clay and it absorbs, and that's an uck. No, you can't have that. It's sort of like you wouldn't take a flower pot that you used outside that you filled with dirt and then bring it inside and decide to eat, just start eating cereal out of it either. These days we know that. Then they didn't know that. All kinds of things could make them, gross. Make them sick and die. Any food that could be eaten but has water on it from such a pot is unclean, and any liquid that could be drunk from it is unclean. Anything that one of their carcasses falls on becomes unclean. An oven or a cooking pot must be broken up. They are unclean, and you are to regard them as unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern for collecting water remains clean. It's okay. Because, spring has movement, and a cistern probably has like a lid on it. It's like you don't have to break the cistern for the lid. It's like that's not necessary. But anyone who touches one of their carcasses is unclean. This is a big deal for some stuff here. It's just some geckos. The carcass falls on any seeds that are planted. They remain clean. So yes, Mother Earth has the way of dealing with this decomposition that will not make you sick. But if the water has been put on seed and the carcass falls on it, it is unclean for you. So I guess just dig up that plant. If an animal that you are allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches the carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who eats some of the carcass must wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. I'm assuming they mean when you didn't intentionally kill for like dinner, because otherwise this would make eating problematic. Anyone who picks up the carcass must wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. Every creature that moves about on the ground is detestable. It is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creatures that move about on the ground. I'm not quite sure what they mean by that. I think they probably mean like slithering on the ground, like snakes and things, because, if you can't eat geckos, you probably can't eat snakes with this either. Whether it moves on its belly, or walks on all fours, or on many feet, that's a lot of different types of insects, centipedes and stuff too, it is detestable. Seems a bit far. I like my ant friends. I'm not going to eat them. Do not defile yourselves by any of these creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves about on the ground. Okay? I am the Lord who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore be holy, because I am holy. Those are his words. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves in the water, and every creature that moves about on the ground. You must distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between the living creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Just don't shove every form of thing that you can in your belly. I mean, that's just not, they don't all belong. They're not all food. I agree with that. There's a lot of things, a lot of creatures that roam about that eating them is never something I ever thought of. So this was a longer one. So until the next video, friends.